This is SLP by day,
author by night,
with Tali Kellerstein and
Becca Eisenberg,
bringing the SLP writing community
together.
Hi, I'm Tali Kellerstein, pediatric speech-language pathologist and founder of the Speak Boutique. I'm so excited to be co-hosting this podcast, SLP by day, author by night, with my brilliant friend Becca Eisenberg, as we celebrate the stories and voices of SLPs who are changing the game through creativity and connection. You can learn more about my work at thespeakboutique.com. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. We read all your comments and would love to have your feedback. If you are an SLP author, please join our Facebook group, SLP by Day, Author by Night. Hi, welcome everybody. Today we have Andrea Coke with us. I'm so excited. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Andrea, and then we're going to jump right in. Andrea Coke is a wife, mother of 4, teacher, speech-language pathologist, and author. Creating stories that celebrate belonging and inclusion is where Andrea feels most at home. Her debut book, Morningstar, A Doll for Me, which I have and love, earned a Kirkus Star from the prestigious Kirkus Reviews. She's also traditionally published through Beech Street Books, which produces books designed for Canadian schools and libraries. Andrea holds a Master of Health Science in Speech-Language Pathology from the University of Toronto, a Bachelor of Education from York University, and a Bachelor of Arts in Linguistics from York University. With more than 20 years of experience in education, Andrea serves as a senior manager at the Toronto Catholic District School Board, overseeing a wide portfolio that includes speech-language pathology, audiology, and deaf and hard of hearing services. She's also a leader in professional education and is the past president of the Association for the Collaboration of Speech-Language Pathologists in Schools. She continues to advocate provincially for strong school-based SLP practice. She teaches a teacher qualification course in speech and language, equipping educators with practical tools to support students with communication needs. And she also holds adjunct professor status in the speech-language pathology department at the University of Toronto. Her work has been recognized through several honors, including the Sandra M. Henderson Award for Clinical Experience, the TDSB Exemplary Practice Business Leadership Award for her advocacy on behalf of students with communication and learning needs, and the Toronto Educational Leader of the Year Award from the Ontario Council for Exceptional Children. Originally from the Twin Islands of Trinidad and Tobago, Andrea now lives in Canada with her family, so lucky for me, in Toronto, and so I've gotten to meet Andrea in person, yes, which is awesome.
It's amazing.
So welcome. It's so great to have you here.
We're so excited to have you on. And
Thank you so much.
You're so busy. Wow.
It's hard to listen to your own bio. You're like,
wow.
I'm busy.
Accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
It's one of those things when you're doing it, you don't realize it until after, and then you're like, oh, how did I do that?
No, it's an amazing tapestry of experience and huge contribution to our local community as well. So
thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
So I just wanted to start in general, kind of I would love to know the melding of where you started out in speech and how that led you to where you were in authorship. And I don't know if the sequence is that way, if it was SLP first and author later. Some people, it's the reverse.
But a teacher too, because you're also a teacher.
Teaching. So I started in teaching, and which I really loved. I still love teaching. And then I was doing linguistics at the time, and somebody invited a speech pathologist for one of those kind of lunch and learns. And I went to it. I didn't know what it was. I had never heard of this field before. And then it was just like this thing like, oh my gosh, I can actually do as much as I love teaching, I didn't really like the math and the science and all of those other pieces, but I can do the language piece all day. And that's really what sort of drew me in. So I did start in teaching and then went to University of Toronto to do my master's. And then I went into speech pathology, which was just such a, well, as you know, just such an eye-opening field. There was just so much to do. And even though I work in the school-based piece, there's just so much to the field. It's so large. The scope is so great that it was like, oh, I could do this. And if I don't want to do the child language anymore, I can do adults, and I can, work in the medical side of it. And then after that was sort of the the process to authorship.
Beautiful. Can you describe how like that path to authorship, how it started? And
so it really began. I mean, I've always been writing. I've been one of those people that, like I've got journals all over the house. I've got notebooks, stories I've written that I've always wrote. And I think it was during the time of the pandemic that I just kind of like, you know what? I have always written. I just want to get something published. Let me just get started on that. And my kids were thinking about a Christmas gift for me. And I saw this thing online where there was somebody who was doing this course. It was like an 8-week course on all the things you needed to do to get published. And I said, give me that. I don't need clothes. I don't need anything else. Like, give me that. And I took that course, and it was literally step by step through the publishing process and the writing process and all of those things. So even though I had stories written already, once I started that course, it was with April Cox, I wrote new stories and that I had the ideas about, and just followed that process through. And from there, it just was like, oh my gosh, I love doing this. It was like another aha moment. Like, okay, I knew I liked it, but until you actually start doing it, and it's not an easy path. There's so much learning, the learning curve, things that I know now that I didn't know at that time. But as you go through it, you get better at it. But so now I'm on that book that I wrote, Molly Morningstar. That's a 6-book series, and I'm on the 5th book right now.
Amazing.
Illustrator in getting done and hoping by next year to finish up the last one.
Yeah. So my question I always love to ask people, because everyone has a different kind of journey with like finding an illustrator.
Yeah.
And each book I also think is, you have I've had different illustrators, but when you have a series, you're staying with that one illustrator. Yeah. So I was just curious about what your experience was like finding an illustrator for the series.
Yeah. So originally when I first started, I just sort of looked for recommendations. I was online a bit, seeing who other people were using, and then checking out their work and seeing, does that look like how I envision my story to be? And that's a hard process because you really don't know what you're looking at and what that looks like. And this person this illustrator, Fernanda, was new. She hadn't really done any work before, but I saw her drawings and I liked them. And so then I actually asked her I paid her to do just sort of a character sketch for me. Right. And then when she did it, then I said, because I'm actually looking at a series, and the series had been written at that time. It was still going through the editing phase, but I still had it written. So I said, I'm looking to do that, and I want to have consistency. So sort of, sign up for a couple of years project. And that's what we did. And people were kind of like, oh, she's new. She doesn't know anything about publishing. It might be hard, but I think the first conversation that we had a Zoom call, and we were talking, and then she just said something at the end. She says, I'm going to do what you want me to do with this because it's your baby. And that was just like, okay, I think I've hit it. And I feel like it's just been a lot of luck, a lot of having a good relationship with her. We've had to adjust some of our scheduling because I was very ambitious in those days and thought, we'll finish this one in 3 months and then we'll move on to the next one. And now it's probably taken a little longer, maybe close to a year, in order to get things going, just because I've learned a lot more and it's taken her a little bit of time. So she lives in Spain, and she's originally from Guatemala. So there was also a bit of a language barrier there, but we worked through it. And I'm so afraid to try another book. I do have another series I want to do, and I think I want it illustrated a little bit differently. But I feel like I lucked out on getting this illustrator. Yeah. I don't know that I would.
There's really something to be said about taking a chance on somebody, fresh. And my illustrator was also right out of art school. She just finished OCAD, which is our local art school here, and she's been great. Like there's really something to be said on rolling the dice and taking a gamble on somebody fresh.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it was like I was new too, and I only knew at that amount, but it was really, we just had those conversations. We met online and we sort of talked about the project, and I was clear about what I wanted. I think that that's a really important piece, is not just sort of like, oh, I want it, I want it illustrated, but kind of having an idea of what you want so that you can choose somebody who actually draws or illustrates in that way, right? If you want something really whimsical and that person doesn't do that, it's harder to fit. So I think doing a little bit of my homework and looking at that, and then after that, it was just like, okay, now you take it to the next level. This is my idea, but she added in details that I didn't think about that I really loved.
Exactly. I feel like it's like a very like personal experience, because when you're writing a book, you kind of like, this happens to me, like you have like a vision in your mind of like what you're thinking. And for one of my books, I found the artist on Etsy. I just liked her style and it just worked out. And again, a language barrier, but with the technology, you figure it out. So yeah, that's so interesting. And so just about this series, I'm curious about a series, because if anyone's also interested in about a series, did you do it through, because I see your book is hardcover. Yes. What was your process in the actual publication of the hardcover book? Because are they all hardcover, or some?
I have them in all. I have hardcover and softcover, and then I also have the ebook version. So when I first started, I again thinking about how to get it published and printed. I wanted to do a hardcover book, and I didn't even really realize what the difference was. I mean, I knew what hardcover and softcover was, but I didn't know what that process looked like. And so I chose a publishing company, and it was Tali that I really connected with this company I was researching, and I was looking for, like, have you worked with anybody? I wanted recommendations, because that was important to me, that somebody else had said yes. And they said, oh, there's somebody in Toronto. And that's how we connected. And we were able to talk about her experience with the publisher, with the printer. So then that's how I did the hardcover. I printed it there. The local one, the soft cover, it was easier for me to just get them printed here. But I have both of them, and I sell both of them on Amazon and on my website, in the hardcover and the soft cover. Yeah.
It's funny that was your memory, because my first memory of us meeting was me asking you about Kickstarter. But you're right, you would have had done that before.
Yes, that's right.
And that's right. And then we met. You held my hand through what to do for a Kickstarter.
That's right. I forgot about that Kickstarter, that early experience. That was but
the book would have come first. The book would have so your sequencing is better than my sequencing.
And a lot of it in this business is really about sort of connecting with people and hearing what's worked for other people and what to avoid and things like that, because there's no real script for it.
No.
No, I think that's what our podcast is about like showing that we need to help each other to kind of guide each other to, because publishing is such a different, that's why the podcast is so interesting, because everyone does it a little bit of a different way.
For sure.
And that's what's so interesting about it. Yeah. And everyone is sort of personal on like how they like to do it. Right. So I just think I find that, so you actually like ship things from your house then, right? Like you have.
I do.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a bit of work too, in just trying to keep up with that piece. And I do sell a lot on Amazon too. It's not as obviously as, they take such a big cut and things like that. But, because I'm still working and I'm not doing this full time. I'm not writing full time, even though I feel like I am.
Yeah, no, I
still have my day job.
We always we juggle a million different things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But that's the piece about what you're saying in terms of like everyone's journey is different. I think that was the biggest piece I had to learn, is that everyone's journey is different. And just because it worked for somebody else in this way doesn't mean it's going to work for me in the same way. And so it was important for me to sort of listen to how people are doing things, what they've done, but then still take it to like what works for me. What am I prepared to do, and how much am I prepared to invest in this versus the next person who might have different goals and different timelines. So
when you started Molly, you had already envisioned like all 6 of the
Yeah.
series, or okay, amazing. And can you remind me? You said you're coming up with the 6th. Is the last one coming? Or
The 5th one is right now with the illustrator.
and
And that
the 6th
one's
one's
called, and then the sixth one is the only one I haven't written as yet. So before,
okay,
when I started, I had 5 of them written,
yeah,
and they were still going through the editing process, but they were written and I knew what I wanted. The 6th one, I kind of knew what I wanted it about, but I hadn't actually written it. And that's sometimes how my process is, that I think about it for a bit of time, and then the idea, just what that story will look like, will come, and then I could just write it and then
perfect.
move on from it. So yeah, so I do have to sit there and think about that, but I've been just so busy with other things that the time to really focus and think about that last one, because I do want to get it finished by next year, because there's another series I want to start working on. So
Do you want to tell us about the other one, or is it still secret and you're
I can't tell you really the topic, but I did start it as a children's picture book, and it is about a young boy with ADHD and sort of him navigating the world. And then I decided to just so push myself a bit, and I really wanted to write a middle grade book. And so I'm thinking of moving that, instead of doing a picture book with that, doing it as a early chapter book. So
amazing,
yeah, so
amazing.
that's going to take me a little bit of time, but right now what I'm doing is taking the stories that I've written and starting to just sort of expand them a bit, because obviously I have more space in that. Like, I had taken those stories down to, like, 400, 500 words for a children's picture book. Now I've got to,
Right.
like,
Expand.
build it back
Yeah.
out again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you decide, like I think like when you have something that you've written, something that you've created,
Yeah.
there's 2 different ways you can go with it. So you can either go, like, for those of us who have like this creative drive, which I think clearly everybody here does. So you either want to create a new product, something totally different, or take what you have and expand on it. And what makes you, because I could totally picture Molly as like a whole box set, and then like, a whole, gift set that goes with it.
I know. I love your ideas of box set. I always was inspired by Tali. I'm like, a gift set, that sounds great.
That's true. I did.
One or the other.
It's hard to sort of know that, because I at first, when I first started, I knew I had the 6 ideas that I wanted to do, and then as I started writing it, I thought, oh, I could do so much with this character, I want to do more. But then it was just that my mind starts going on something else, and then I had this idea of this other book that I was thinking about, like I said, about this young boy, really based on my son, and I thought, oh, I want to tell that story. So I started to think about that, but I don't think that I will abandon it. I think I will go back to doing it. I did want to create some plushies to go with it, have it as a box set, and all of those pieces, and which again takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, it really it's so inviting. It really, like, the whole story lends itself to speak to that. Beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
the other question I had, it like slipped my mind. I had another question. I'll give it to Rebecca.
I had a question just about like what just to go back to like speech pathology, because like right now, so you're working as a speech pathologist, or you're still, because like what's your like day job?
My day job, I manage the speech and language department. So, along with the audiology and I have deaf and hard of hearing itinerant teachers. So that's what I do during the day, and which is, I do a little bit of private practice, because I just really like to have my hands in the client piece, and the working with students and things like that, because I'm managing a lot, I'm spending a lot of time with my staff and helping to build them up to help support them in the work that they're doing. But we have at our board, we have I have a couple of programs that are language-based programs, kindergarten language programs, and we have 8 of them. And so those are co-instructed with a teacher and an SLP. And we get to do a lot of, speech pathology work, let's say, what you would typically think about that, as opposed to maybe some of the consultation pieces. So that's really great. And I love to work on the program development for that, and the lesson planning and all of those pieces. So I still feel that I have my hand a bit in that, but a lot of it is management, managing staff.
I just think it's really interesting how you've combined the, teacher and speech pathologist and then the books. I think that's like a really interesting, and the
Yeah.
linguistics,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool how you kind of all combine that together. And I do love the series idea because it's like, because when kids like a character,
For
then they
sure.
want to read more.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's a really cool idea about the
Yeah.
series. So.
I think when I was, growing up, I loved Nancy Drew. I pretty much have like most of the series, the older um hardcover ones. And I just loved having my checklist. I remember just like checking off and,
Right.
I've got one. I mean, that's a big
Oh,
series. It
yeah,
was up to
yeah.
like 50 something or whatever. But kids like that. They like that
Yeah.
idea, especially once they meet a character, to just try to follow them through, and they connect. When you connect with something, it's not any different than watching, a TV show where you connect with the character and you just keep watching it because that keeps drawing you in. So yeah, the series part of that is that's one of the reasons I do, because I fall in love with the character. I love the
Yeah.
character. I love it. And so so you
Okay.
really want to write about them and put them in a different situation. So
I remembered my question. It was you'd mentioned in the bio that you were also traditionally published. So I wanted to
yes.
ask
Oh, yeah, I
the
have
contrast
research on too.
between
Mhm.
your the independent publishing versus the traditional publishing.
Yeah. So that was a really interesting path that sort of happened. It kind of happened to me. Somebody had reached out to had seen my books and had reached out, and a publisher, and they are a small Canadian press, and they um, produce books for schools and libraries. So you won't find them necessarily on Amazon or anything like that. They sell to schools and they sell in bulk, and had asked me to write a story, and it was a nonfiction, and I did that, and it was very interesting. And then I spent a lot of time. It was much more difficult, I felt, to do because I'm writing for somebody else, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about what they want, and I'm looking at their their specs, and they had a long list of things that they wanted in it and how they wanted it written, which was a little different from how I write. And so I had to keep that in mind, that and then decisions, but then other times when I couldn't make a decision about something, like should I keep this in, I was like, you know what, they're going to change it anyway. So I didn't have to make that decision. Where
Yeah.
when it's your own book and you're doing it, you're debating, should I keep that, should I not keep that? There's nobody to tell you yes or no. And then the editing piece, because I wrote it and I submit it, and then their editor goes through it, and they changed a lot of things. And
Yeah.
some of the things that they changed, I was like, oh, I wasn't so happy with it. Other things were fine.
So when you self-publish and you've created, the entire thing from start to finish, there's no question that you're in it. Did you feel like at the end of the product that you'd made for the traditional publisher that it was still yours, that it was still your voice?
Yes, I did feel it was still mine, but it was just a different way of doing it. And I was able to sort of let go of some of that, even though
Great.
it wasn't exactly what I wanted. Because even when they did the illustrations, I was kind of like, I don't know if I would choose that for the cover. I didn't really like some pieces of it. But there was this piece that was a little bit of freedom there too. The thing, like, okay, that's not on me.
Right,
Right?
right.
When I'm choosing
Yeah.
my own cover, I'm like debating, is it this one or that one, and every little detail. But so yeah, so that was a little bit different. And then they've asked me to write. I'm doing another project with them right now, and
Amazing.
this one was it was the way it sort of came about. They had asked me to write a story, and I didn't know if it was on a Canadian series they're doing. Canadian celebrities and things like that. And they had a list of 6 names that they were that they were looking at to produce for next year. And I'm looking, oh, and I go like, oh, Christine Sinclair, I can write about her. And I know that. And, as a soccer player, and yeah, they had asked me to write this story. And at first I didn't know who the person was that they wanted me to write about. And I thought, okay, I'll try it. I don't know. Until I told my kids who it was, and they're like, "Oh my God, you know that he's the NBA star of this year, and 3-time NBA champion, and all this." And I was like, "Oh, okay, now I'm excited. Yes, now I'll do it."
Beautiful.
So I'm in the middle of that. But that piece, those are the two biggest pieces I think with being traditionally published, is that it takes some of the pressure off of you because there's somebody else that's making some decisions, but you do give up some of that control, some of that piece where you're making some of those decisions and you're and
I guess also including like the financial piece is nice that is like taken care of, and the storage and
yes I don't have anything to do with that. They publish it, they put it out, they send it. I don't know anything about that. You're just paid up front, and then that's it. So so it's nice having both, and it's nice sort of feeling both of them. I wouldn't give up self-publishing at all, because I do like having that creative piece, and I love being able to sort of envision what I want to do, and on my own time too. Right. It's another thing when you're working for somebody else, you're on their time, and so even though I set myself to think when I started, 3 months for me to finish this one book, if that went to a year, it's okay, because I made the time. I set the time.
It's wonderful how each door. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask about like what were you talking about? Because I know the marketing piece, I know is some like people are always interested in, and as speech pathologists, we never, I never took a marketing class. Like, we learn how to be a speech pathologist, right? Like we didn't take any of those like sort of marketing and business. So I know that was the difference between traditionally, and they're going to do their own marketing. They have a marketing team. I'm just curious from your perspective, with your series and your journey of like kind of like learning how to market the books and how you started and what worked and what didn't work. So I'm just curious about that. I always ask people about that.
That's such a big topic. It's one that everybody asks about, nobody likes. And but you do have to market your books. And I've learned the hard way on how to do that. Again, thinking about what works for me and versus other people. And there's so many people that will tell you, oh, you need to be on social media every day. You need to be posting. You need to be showing yourself. You need to be dancing. You need to be doing all kinds of things to really push your book forward. Which it's true. You do need to have that visibility, but I think you need to have the visibility with the right people, with the people that are interested in your book and interested in the book kind of books that you write, because it's not going to be for everybody. There's some people that are just not going to, no matter what you put, they're not going to see your social media posts. They're not going to engage with it. So I do have a presence on social media. It's not big. I pretty much post every day because I do bulk posting. Like I schedule them once in month in advance and then just have them go. But there's some days I won't even go on to see. Yeah. So I'm probably not the best person in that, because you're supposed to be out there and engaging and responding. And it does take me a while. I just don't have the time for that. There's some people that do some ads on Amazon. And when I first started, I tried that. And it does work. You do get a lot of interest in the books and things like that, but I couldn't keep up with managing the ads. Like you've got to adjust them. And I just couldn't keep up with that. So I stopped doing that. I stopped maybe about 1.5 years ago. I haven't touched it, but my books are still selling. So
what do you think is the best bang for the buck in terms of marketing? Like if you had to, you only had to pick 1 to 3 forms of marketing, what would be the kind of the must-have, the most successful?
I think I would say, as much as I don't want to say it, I would say that part of it is that Amazon, or even to just direct people, because there's such a wide reach that more people can see it. who are looking, but having a way for them to either get it on your website, because that's really where you're going to make money, and sort of directing them there, or that they see it and then they go and look at your social media, and there you also have it where it's directed to you, because you're not going to just having an Instagram account or a Facebook account. It's not gonna get anywhere. And then somebody else sort of has that kind of control. So I would say that is a good piece. And I see the difference in what the sales are like when I was doing ads versus what I'm not. And right now I'm okay with, a little less sales, but I'm not spending all that time trying to manage the ads. And I have done shows too, where I've done like community events and things like that. And that again is a hit and miss. Yeah. You can go to a show where there's a lot of traffic, but nobody's really interested in buying books.
Are you talking about like community community shows or conventions?
Yes.
You had this amazing Molly cutout.
Yeah, I do.
That's really cute. And I like your plush idea too. And yeah, but I agree. I think everyone has their own way of what they feel comfortable with too. Because, that's not, because like I said, like, we weren't taking like actual classes and stuff.
No.
Like, so it's just interesting how, and then talking about shows and stuff too, because that's another thing that people sometimes don't realize, that you have to have a budget for this stuff, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because some of the, like, I have looked into it, and some of these shows, like, it costs a lot of money just to have a table. And then and then it's a risk, because you don't know if you're going to sell your books.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's, I don't know. Just personally, I've tried a lot of different things, and I think some things work better for other people versus
they do. They do. I have a friend that does. She's out every weekend at a different show. I see her posts and things, and I thought, I can't do that. I don't want to give up my whole weekend.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of preparation. Not only are you paying for the fee, but you're getting your materials. I have to buy stickers and make stickers and all kinds of things to add to it apart from the books. And then you're out for like a whole work day selling, and sometimes, and then if the weather doesn't cooperate, you can be rained out and you've lost your money. People are not coming out because it's raining or it's cold or something like that, or it's too hot. Like, there's something that happens that you can't control, and it's a lot. And you have to be somebody who likes engaging with people walking past you and that's not, I don't feel comfortable doing that. It's not my comfort area.
So, I think it's definitely not my comfort area. Tali knows that.
Yeah, no, it's true for a lot of us, because we typically didn't come into this field thinking we're going. I mean, and already, like, the amount of hats, just in those 20 minutes we've been speaking, like the amount of hats you've worn to get the book out, right? Like the author hat, the editor hat, the artistic director hat, and that's just to get it done. And then once it's done, the marketing, the sales, accounting, storage, like it's so many roles that I think going in we don't realize. And each one of those roles, particularly I think sales and marketing, is a world unto itself. There are
for sure
so many options and things like that. And
people need to know that no matter what, you do have to market. There's got to be, but you need to find what works for you. There's no point in being out at, an event and you've paid like $1,000 or $500 for this and you're not comfortable and you don't like it and you're not making, like, that's not going to work for you. Yeah. But I like, when I've gone to schools, different schools, and I've read my book, and I get to connect with other teachers, and then it's by word of mouth, and then somebody else calls me for that and things like that. Like that's more my speed.
You're very much in your comfort zone.
Yeah. And you really have to find that piece, because it is, you think about the amount of books that are produced every day that come out that are to find yours.
That's right.
You need to find, and having sort of an email list, and then sort of developing that, and really being able to connect with people in that way, people who actually want to be connected to you.
Your market.
And even that's hard, right? Even that's difficult. Like, what am I going to write about?
Exactly. Like some people, the newsletter thing, I think we had somebody on, I think it was Amanda, right?
Yeah, Amanda.
About the email. And I think everyone, she has a newsletter and that's her, I think everyone has like different things that work for them,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's why always that we started this podcast. So everyone can kind of share what works for them and
Yeah.
then we try different things and then see, it doesn't really work for me or it does work for me.
Yeah.
I think I got an important piece, a good piece of advice once when I was going to present at have a booth at a conference, and the advice was not to measure your success at the conference by the amount of sales you have in the event itself, but by the amount of contacts you make. And so if you set the goal as I'm going to make, X amount of contacts, you don't have that crushing disappointment if you didn't sell everything.
Yeah.
You have to schlep everything back home.
Yes.
But it also I thought it was like a very good North Star signal of like what is like the real aim, and the real aim is to share and spread the word. And now you have contacts, and then you have a way to continue to let people know as your line evolves. But I'm also, because you come from a background where you're very much in the schools, and I think like for you, it probably was a very natural transition to do school presentations. But for a lot of us, that's not where we're hanging out. And so I'd love to know the process. So for people who might have written a children's book but aren't normally in a school environment, what would be the process that you recommend to present to schools, to read at schools?
I would say that the easiest way to do it is sort of start locally. Go to your local school and introduce, like whether it's the school that you went to or the one down the street from you, and just say, hey, I'm an author in the neighborhood and I have a book, and I have a spec sheet that just sort of tells what my books are about, and how they support social emotional learning. Like you got to make it for it so that the teacher understands why would I be reading this book to the class? And when I go to do school visits, I will usually do a craft that goes along with the story. So I'll do a read aloud, answer kids' questions, and they always have, lots of questions. And if you're not used to being in front of kids like that, it might feel a little daunting. They're like, how many millions of dollars do you make? And, how many hours do you do? It's very, those kind of things. And usually teachers are very good about sort of prepping the kids. When they have somebody coming into the classroom to present. And then we do a craft. And I think that that's really a great way so we've made our own dolls, and now I will, bring materials for them sometimes. Or I have an activity book that goes with some of my stories, and I might bring a page from that and allow the teachers to use that after I leave. So, but I think that the easiest way is really to start local, like go to your local school, the closest one to you where you have any kind of connection, and just sort of talk to them, because it's usually like, I know some people go and maybe send a letter to the principal, and this might work different depending. I'm talking in the Ontario context, might send a letter to the principal. The principals don't have that's not on their radar in terms of things like that, unless you know that person. Yeah. And then they'll tell their teacher, oh, do this. It's much better to go directly to a teacher and just say, hey, I'm in the neighborhood. I'd be happy to come. And when I first started, I didn't charge for the visits. I said I would come and do a reading, but there was a minimum book purchase. I did make them have a minimum book purchase to make it worth my while to come. And then it's all word of mouth, because once one teacher likes something, they tell their friends, you need some. I had this author come in. She was great. She did all this work. And that's how it sort of snowballs. And I can't do a lot of author visits again because I'm working during the day, and I've had to take a day off so that I can go and do it. But it's great. And you can offer to do, if you're not comfortable being in person, offer to do virtual visits. Yeah. And teachers do like that too, because sometimes, just having somebody come for a half hour, and you can send out your book sheet ahead of time, because when kids hear it, they want the book, right? And I will often say I will donate 2 copies to the class, with a certain number of purchases. So that way, for kids that can't afford it, they can get it. But then for the other ones who want it and they want it signed and things like that, like all those kind of things, or I throw in a sticker with it. Those are things that kids like and teachers like.
Yeah.
And it really helps make it that piece easier. So you have those sort of two options if you don't really want to be in person and sort of manage. And you can also tell them that you want a small group, because sometimes they have asked me to do like a whole assembly with, from K to 6. And even though I'm comfortable in front of a class, I don't like to do that. It's such a big range, and it's hard to manage the behaviors and hard to manage the kids. I'd rather say I'll read my story 4 times, and I'll do grade 1s and 2s, and then I'll move on to 3s and 4s and 5s and 6s. And I do it that way because it just gives you a little more control. Yeah.
Also must be very difficult to your presentation would be very different for the 4s and 5s versus the 1s and 2s.
Exactly.
Yeah. I talk about the writing process a lot with the older ones, about like what it means to think about a story and then to write it, and how when they do things at school, that editing process, the teacher sort of marks it's not any different than me sending it to my editor, who sort of says, change this, and you read it over, all of those pieces. So I talk about it that way, and kids really like and you will be amazed at how many of like, oh, I've written a story on this, I've written a story on this, and I've written a story on that. So
beautiful.
So that part is really interesting.
At the very beginning, you had mentioned there were things that when you first started that you didn't know, that you almost like wish you knew. So what would be, Andrea today, what would be advice to Andrea who's just about to start?
I think it's sort of to trust yourself, in terms of I was ready to pay for a lot of advice that I didn't really need, because I didn't know that what people were telling me was something that was going to work for me. It was their particular experience and how things worked for them. And so, and then when you have a price attached to it, you tend to think it's more valuable, the information that you're getting, but really it's not. It's just somebody sort of talking about their experience and then saying, oh, it worked this way for me. So I did spend a lot of money that I think now I didn't need to, in thinking about that. And had I just trusted myself a bit and sort of slow down the process, I really wanted to get started. And when you have that desire and that thing, you're kind of like, oh, let me kind of do this and do that. But, you don't want to slow down. You sort of want to move with the momentum. But it does, I think I would tell myself to sort of slow down, think about what you want, think about the goals that you want, and really be clear about that. Right? You can't have a goal like, oh, I want to be like an award-winning writer, or, sell 1 million copies, unless you're prepared to do the work for that. And I certainly wasn't, because I wasn't quitting my job. I wasn't going to spend all this time doing Amazon ads and doing, going to every weekend spending at a show. So I think I needed to know what my own goals were, that they had to be realistic for me. And then I could work on them. And then I could know if I'm doing what I need to do and what the next step was. So.
Beautiful. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I love that. And then the goal has to be really, I think, realistic and genuine. You have to really enjoy doing it.
You do.
I think that's something, I don't know, for me, like once I changed my goal of, I'm just doing this because I enjoy it and I love the creative process. Versus like, I want to reach this sort of like amount of sales or this amount of, I think having like realistic expectations is also important. And when you love your book and you put that much into it, I think people also feel that too.
Yeah.
You have to love your own, you love your own work. And I think that makes marketing a little bit easier when you just love your own stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, to me, it's like, I just think it's such a wonderful what you've done with this whole series and everything. And I know you say your social media is not big, but I think it's really good.
Thank you.
I'm also getting your messages, so it's good.
Thank you. But it is hard work, and you do need to, and you may have to adjust your goals, because what you thought at the beginning, life happens, different things come along that make you sort of have to, like I said, my timelines, I had to realize that were not realistic. At the beginning, they thought 3 months, 6 months, I'll do 2 books and get them out. And now it's taking a year, but I'm okay with that year because I'm feeling more comfortable in what I'm putting out and how I'm doing it. And I know that it's not only about just sort of putting the book out there and finishing it, but then the whole marketing piece.
Yeah.
And if I'm not prepared and ready to do that piece, then it's got to fit in with your life cycle, your life choices and everything else. So, but I do love the part that you're talking about, Becca, about having to love what you're doing, or else it becomes just another job. It becomes a chore. And I don't want that. I want it's got to be something that sort of really engages me. And so I'm still at that place, which I'm really happy with.
That's
amazing. Beautiful. Was there anything you'd like to share that we haven't covered? Anything?
I think we've covered a lot. I'm really excited about this podcast and the work that you guys are doing, because I think that community piece is so important. I would not be here had I not had community around me to help me, guide me, and even though they might not even have known it at the time, that guiding me and helping and understanding what that process is. Like Lavelle has, like, I connected with her online. I just sort of saw, oh, okay, there are other SLPs out there writing.
Yeah.
And there are other SLPs out there doing this thing, and seeing all the different things that people are doing. And even though my books weren't necessarily specifically like how to achieve an R or how to achieve an S, even though I have stories like that written and ready to go out at some point, because I did do those too, it's still within the community in terms of that piece about how I think the SLP community has always been very close-knit and always been very supportive, but just finding this avenue has really been a blessing and really helpful, because you can't do it on your own. You just don't know what's out there. And so I'm really excited for the work that you guys are doing. So I really want to thank you guys for this and an opportunity
on. It's so interesting
to chat with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very, very happy to have you here, and an important part of, for me, many of my communities, my local community, my local speech community, and our broader speech author community. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
This is SLP by Day,
Author by Night,
with Tali Kellerstein
and Becca Eisenberg,
bringing the SLP writing community
together.